Welcome back to Proverbs 31 and the 21st. Today we are making applesauce, so come along with me. All right, so we've got our stainless steel pot set up, ready to receive apples. And then have some jars that are going to get sterilized in the canner. So let's turn that on because that'll take a while to warm up. The first step of this process is to take our apples and peel them, slice them, and get them in that big pot. So I have this KitchenAid attachment that I borrowed from my mother-in-law. This will make really quick work of the apples. We have 12 pounds to get through, so that's a lot. Next year, I'll probably do twice as much. I might even do a second apple day. We'll see. But so I'm kind of figuring it out here. This is my first time using this, but it worked really well on the larger apples, but we did have a few apples, I think the Golden Delicious, that were too small for it to work properly. So we did end up using the hand crank apple peeler for that. I'll show you footage of that here in just a second, but you could also definitely just do this by hand, peel all the apples, chop all the apples up, but it would take a very long time. So I would recommend at least getting the manual hand crank one, which I'll show you here in just a minute. But so another tip is when you're picking your apples, try to get a good variety. So here I have Honeycrisp, Golden Delicious, Granny Smith, and I think there's one other type that I can't remember at the moment, but at least 4 different types of apples. The more variety, the better. Here, you'll get some footage here of all the different types coming over. So you can see there, the Golden Delicious are just so much smaller than the other apples. So those I did have to use the hand crank for those. So as you can see, I do have help. My mother-in-law was here to help me, and my mom was also there. She hung out with Caleb. You could definitely involve your little person in this. They could be up on the toddler tower, probably tasting the apples. But he helped me bag the apples. I might actually put in some footage of him finding the apples. If you did not watch my fall shop and decorate, I have footage of him in the apples or picking out the apples in that video. So head on over and watch that if you would like. All right, I am going to speed this up for you guys so it doesn't feel so long. It did take us probably 4 hours to do the applesauce as a whole. You could totally do it yourself, but obviously it's way easier with help. So get your mom friends together and have an applesauce day. All right, my bowl is full, so I'm just going to dump those real quick, and then I'm going to give you an up-close shot of how I've been doing this. So you just secure the apple on the little spikes, I guess, and then you slide this bit on. You want to try to get it so that the core of the apple is going to be in the center, so you can see me adjusting and readjusting, and then I push it on there, and then I just let it run. Now I'm taking the apple off. I discovered that you don't want to slide the slide backwards, or else you can bang your hand on the sharp part. Thankfully, I did not learn that the hard way. But I did realize that at one point that I was kind of putting my hands in danger, but I learned. So yeah, so you can see there it slides back for you to put the next apple on. So it does kind of look like there's some waste going on here, but I do end up pulling out the apple slices that have just a little bit of the peel on them for my son. That way he can eat them for his lunch, because it did start to kind of bother me. Like I would have to pull off the parts that had, because you don't want the peel in your applesauce. I do know there's a way to do applesauce where you just like don't even peel your apples, but I think it takes a really long time to cook it. I've never done it that way. Maybe someday I will, but that's not how we're doing it today. So I was trying to get as much peel out as possible. So you'll see like I'll kind of snap it off. My son ended up eating those. I pulled them out of the bowl and he ate them for his lunch. So waste not, want not, right? Okay, here we have the hand crank. So it suctions to a smooth surface. So that's why she's doing it. It's my mother-in-law doing it, but that's why she's doing it on the stove, just so that it's nice and secure. She's doing all the smaller apples. You could totally do all the apples with this. It works really well. So I think I've seen them at Amish stores. My local farmer's market had it. I don't know if you can get it on Amazon or not. I will take a look, and if I find one, I will link it. But I think they're about $20 to $30 depending on where you get it from. So okay, I will speed this up for you guys just like I did the KitchenAid one. Okay, all the apples are peeled and in our pot. So now we're gonna start heating them up. So you do need to add some water to the bottom of this, just make sure that they don't get burnt. So I put probably a cup and a half. I didn't get it all on video, but of water in the bottom of it. So I think we're about ready to blend up our apples. They're feeling really soft. It's cooked down quite a bit. So I have an immersion blender here. So I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. That just makes sure the acidity is right so that your apples keep. So the nice thing about the immersion blender is I can control how chunky I want my applesauce. Personally, I want mine really smooth, so that's how I'm going to do it. But if you wanted to, you could leave your applesauce chunky. Okay, so now we've got a nice, smooth applesauce. So we're going to turn the burner back on and make sure this is boiling before we put it in our jars. So our jars have been getting sterilized in the water, in the canner. So I will pull those out of the canner and get them all lined up and ready. All our apples heat back up to a boil. I'm gonna get our cans out of the canner here. You know of a better way to get the water out of the jars? I always feel like I'm gonna burn myself. Every time. I do tend to be corn snails. Alright, it sounds like our applesauce is pretty much already boiling, so get a move on. So I tend to just do 1 or 2 jars at a time to make sure they're super hot. So for filling the jars, you need to have your hot jar, wet paper towel for wiping the rim. My rim, or my lids, I have in this little pot with water. So I'm going to heat these up to a boil, softens the wax, gets them ready. And then you're going to need a funnel. This has been sterilized. Okay, let's fill a jar. So we're gonna put our funnel at the top. I'm gonna scoop the applesauce out of the pot here. We're just gonna fill up our jar. Try not to spill. You can tell I'm getting to the bottom of the pot here. I wanted you guys to have the up close shot. Okay, so I filled it, so you still have half an inch to an inch of the rim. I'm wiping. Now I'm gonna use my little magnet to get the lid out of the boiling water. Center that on top. It's very hot, so I'm like really trying not to touch it. All right, then I just tighten the ring, fingertip tight. And I'm putting the jar in the canner. As you can see, there's quite a few jars already in there. But now I'm getting out the next jar to get it ready to start that process all over again. Jars in the canner. I'm gonna wait for it to come to a rolling boil, and then we'll start the timer. They need to process for 20 minutes. All right, so my canner is at a rolling boil, so I'm gonna process these for 20 minutes. Okay, that 20 minutes is up, so now I am going to take the cans out of the canner and just set them on the stovetop. I have a towel sitting there just to kind of protect the glass from each other. What we're looking for now is that telltale pop that tells us the jars have sealed. So let's listen for a second. And there it is. That's a good sign. Okay, so our jars are cool to the touch. So something important is just to make sure, check the tops, make sure they're not bouncy. Looks like all of ours sealed. It's recommended to take the rings off just to make sure that this part is sealed, because having a ring on can actually like disguise the fact that maybe it didn't seal or it comes unsealed. So I'm gonna take the rings off. That's our finished product. Thank you all so much for joining today. Like and subscribe if you want more mom content. See you next time. Bye.